All right, folks, welcome to the 6 p.m. council meeting. The mayor may join us later in the evening. We will start the meeting with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag, United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty, justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Corliss,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Morales,
Here.
Nash,
Here.
Stead,
Here.
Willetts.
Here.
All present.
All right, now I'd entertain a motion for the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move the approval of the work session and regular minutes of the June 25th, 2024 meeting.
Second. Did I hear both for the regular and the work session?
Work session and the regular meeting, yes, of
Okay.
June 25th.
All right, will the clerk please call the roll? Excuse me,
Halliburton.
call the vote? Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Corliss.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, next up, we have special business. First thing here is the reappointment of TJ Sales to the Boise Building Code Board for a 4-year term ending July 2028.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent for the reappointment of TJ Sales to the Building Code Board for a 4-year term ending July 2028. And is he here? Is Mr. Sales here? No. Okay.
Is he here?
I'm not seeing that he is.
Okay, go ahead. You asked unanimous
Unanimous
consent?
consent.
All right, is there any objection? Hearing none, the reappointment is approved. Is he online? Okay, all right. We're gonna skip the interim budget changes for now. We may come back to those later in the meeting. If not, we'll entertain a motion to hold those for a week. But until then, let's move on to item number 3, the revised findings for DRH 23-388.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the revised reasoned statement and conditions on DRH 23-388.
Second.
Will the clerk, any
And
discussion?
just a quick,
Yep.
yeah, just quick comment. I didn't vote in favor of this one the first time around. Still don't think it's quite the right auto-centric design for an area that we're trying to design a little bit differently, but I do think the staff did a great job at capturing all of the findings and the reasons from that discussion. I think that this was an accurate representation, so I'm happy to second and happy to support the motion.
Okay, well, any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Corliss.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, a correction to the consent agenda. There's a typo, and the travel days for Marieweg should be July and not June. And the location of the workshop is Seattle, Washington. With that, Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
I just add that it would be probably cost more than $0 to send her back in time a couple of weeks. So yeah, thank you for that change. I think that would hurt the city. Any further discussion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
item number 35, I just want to call out a great $1 million grant that our Public Works Department wrote for and got from the department or the Bureau of Reclamation for water smart water recycling. They're always doing such a great job at exploring every single opportunity out there to bring additional funding into the programs. I know it takes a lot of work, but I just want to say thank you to the Public Works team for that hard work, and the resources that you're bringing into the city makes a difference.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Corliss.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right. We have nothing on our reading calendars. So our only hearing tonight is CAR 2324 Wingman subdivision and SUB 2360. Sabrina, I believe you're the planner on this. We'll give you a second to get your slides up. Take it away, Sabrina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item before you is a request to rezone approximately 2.5 acres located at 11800 West Overland Road from R1B to R1C. A preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 28 buildable and 8 common lots is also included. As a reminder, this application was submitted and reviewed under the purview of the Legacy Zoning Code. The subject property is located at the northwestern corner of the intersection of Overland Road and Lazasso Avenue. 5 Mile Creek abuts the site to the north, and most of the site is located within the floodplain. The surrounding area is comprised of a mix of single-family and multifamily residential uses, with office and commercial uses located near the intersection of Overland and Cloverdale Roads to the west. There's an existing bus route that runs along Overland Road adjacent to the site, and there are multiple designated bikeways in the area as shown on this slide. The site is designated as suburban on the future land use map within which the proposed R1C zone is allowed. As detailed in your packets, the Planning and Zoning Commission found the R1C zone to be the most appropriate for the site, as it will allow for increased residential density in an area with existing transit service and proximity to services and employment opportunities. It will also provide a transition between the R1A and R1B zones to the north, south, and east, and the R3 and commercial zones to the west. The site is currently vacant, and the applicant proposes to subdivide the property to create 28 buildable and 8 common lots. Each buildable lot is proposed to contain 1 townhome unit. As detailed in your packets, neighbors of the site provided public testimony at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, expressing concerns regarding density, traffic, parking, transitions from the existing neighborhoods, and pedestrian safety. However, the commission found the project was in compliance with the approval criteria of code and approved the associated planned unit development permit. The PUD was not appealed and is therefore not before council for consideration this evening. Vehicular access to the subdivision will be provided by private street access from Lazasso Avenue. As detailed in your packets, the applicant proposes to provide vehicular and pedestrian cross access to the adjacent parcel to the west, which was recently approved for a multifamily development. The applicant also proposes to replace the existing attached sidewalk along Overland Road with a 10-foot wide detached multi-use path to match the planned improvements of the adjacent development. There's existing 5-foot wide attached sidewalk along Lazasso Avenue, which the applicant proposes to maintain, as the construction of detached sidewalk in this location would conflict with 5 Mile Creek towards the northern end of the property. Let's see. The applicant requests a waiver from the subdivision requirements to provide attached sidewalk on both sides of a private street serving more than 10 lots. However, as shown on this slide, the applicant does propose to provide pedestrian circulation throughout the development with a mix of sidewalks, pathways, and crosswalks. The circulation plan includes a permeable pathway through the northern portion of the site along 5 Mile Creek, which would be covered by a pedestrian access easement. The commission was supportive of the proposal and the requested waiver. In conclusion, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, and I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Mayor. Thanks. I have a couple questions. Can you talk to me about the floodplain and increased density and what considerations were given that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Willetts. There is a condition of approval that requires the applicant to obtain approval of a separate floodplain development permit, so that would be reviewed at that time.
And then, Mr. Mayor, one more.
Councilmember Willetts.
So I know this is legacy code. So can you walk us through why this particular section wasn't changed as part of the new modern zoning code? If this was going to be allowed, I'm just trying to figure out like the steps in here. If you could help us walk through that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Willetts, are you referring to the zoning of the
Yes, thank
property?
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. When the zoning was converted from the legacy code to the existing code, that was primarily based on the zoning that was in place previously.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one question. I think that you were saying that I think it's on Lazazo. Did I say that right? We're keeping the sidewalk attached there. And I think that's because the sidewalk is in good condition. It's already attaching to another one, and that there's some constraints when it comes to the 5 Mile Creek. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
All right. We'll have the applicant come. I think, Ben, are you presenting?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Ben Semple, 1450 West Bannock Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. May have Sabrina just pull up the landscape plan just so we can have something to look at when I'm talking. So first of all, we're in agreement with all the conditions of approval that were placed on the project from planning and zoning. We went through an effort to try to increase the landscape buffer along Overland Road, and we are placing a riparian easement over the 5 Mile Creek area, essentially the green hatching that you can see there on the north part of the plan. We're also going to be connecting that permeable pathway to a pathway that was approved with the previous apartment project, which I was here representing as well. And then replacing the existing attached sidewalk on Overland with the 10-foot detached multi-use pathway. With all those changes, we feel really great about this project. Brings a single family residential product to this area that has primarily large lot, single family residential, and then some condo townhome type projects as well. And then the multifamily project to the west that we got approved. So I would stand for any questions that you may have for me on the project.
Ben, how does this integrate with the previous project, that multifamily project we approved to the west?
So yeah, thank you, Sabrina, for pulling that up. So you can see the red box right there was a previous parking area. So that will be removed and the drive aisle will be connected there. It meets all fire and emergency access requirements. And then the sidewalk will be connected through there. We'll relocate some bike racks that were on that previous site plan. That creates a good cross connection between the two. We also have additional guest parking on the Wingman subdivision site. Even though all of these townhomes have 2-car garages and a little bit of on-street parking. And so with that cross access, this is owned by the same developer. So I anticipate that he's going to come up with some agreement that allows some overflow parking into the subdivision, assuming there's no guests taking it up that are at the townhomes.
Council, any questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Thank you, Ben, for your.
Thank you.
I was Marissa Keith. Is she online? Okay. Any members of the public here? I have one listed. If you want to come up and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
My name's Meredith Bronson, and I live on 11658 West Florida Drive in the large lot subdivision behind this complex. My biggest concern is traffic flow and safety, especially through the neighborhood, with Lazazo up into Camas onto Cloverdale. We've already noticed, and the other Florida, we have already noticed a large amount of cars coming through with just the congestion on the cross streets of Cloverdale and Overland. And so with the apartment complex and these units coming in, that's going to be many, many cars. I mean, if you're considering 3 to 4 cars per unit in these townhomes and in the apartment complexes, that is a lot of cars coming out onto Overland, and especially Lazazo. There's already a huge issue with Lazazo going onto Overland either way. 2 years ago, I watched a girl get hit on a bicycle with a car coming through there. Going on to Overland right at that cross street of Cloverdale is insane, just traffic wise, especially at 5 o'clock. As a resident of the state and a local teacher and a community activist, this just is really concerning. Just safety wise with traffic and the amount of cars coming through. I know in the complex across the street, there's no parking allowed on the street, for fire safety reasons, and that's not complied with at all. I worry about cars being parked on Lizazo right in front of that, stop sign, being a hazard if there's not enough parking available. So I'm just kind of curious what the plan is ongoing, through with the safety concerns of throughout the neighborhood and onto Overland. It doesn't seem like anyone can answer that. And that's what's kind of concerning to me, is that it's going to not be preventative, but it's going to be falling on taxpayers and residents later on, when the developer just gets to make his money and scoot away, you know? So I don't know if there's a plan for the developer to put in speed bumps throughout the neighborhood, throughout Lizaso. That would be wonderful to slow down traffic. I know that residents can only turn right off of Overland, but that probably isn't going to happen. So I don't know if there's a way to go about not allowing left-hand turns so that we don't have T-bones every day coming out of there. Because it's already bad enough coming off of Lizaso. So to put another exit right next to it, would be insane. I know that you say like people will just turn right hand turns, but we all know people don't follow the rules. So I think that's just my biggest concern is traffic safety and flow.
Time.
Also water, where are we pulling water from? That area with the large lots has irrigation rights. Do they get irrigation rights? Because every year we're getting less and less water for irrigation. So we're just kind of curious about that as well.
All right. Thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Just a couple things. One, I appreciate the question that you asked of us from council. Typically, we're not going to be responding to questions from the audience, but a council member could ask staff to see if there was a safety plan. However, it is really nice for folks from the neighborhood to come and offer recommendations like you did for, whether it's a speed bumps or a right turn only or different things along those lines, because we're really hoping that you all are going to bring those safety concerns forward so then we can work with staff and the developer to address those things. And so that's the silence that you got back there. I do have a question for you. I can't tell if that is, you're saying Lizazo is a right turn only already?
No, it's not. But I heard that the new turnout for the development will be right turn only towards Cloverdale West.
Yes. Okay, great. Yep. Thank
But
you.
no, but you can go left and right. And that's where it becomes a really big issue. It wasn't 25, 30 years ago growing up when it was a 2-lane Overland Road. But now it's like impossible to turn left out of there. And so we experience a lot of accidents. And like I said, any sort of foot traffic or bike traffic becomes a really huge concern.
And to be clear, you're not asking for a right turn only on Lizazo.
No,
Okay.
that's just what I heard was the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Ma'am, did you? Hi.
Challenged.
If you want to state your name and address for the record.
Maria Bronson, 11658 West Florida Drive. I've lived in this area for 40 years. I've seen the traffic increase when they did the development to the east of Lizaso. They decreased that by about 56 houses because of the density. Too much traffic coming out onto Lizaso. At the meeting in April, the attitude of the council was traffic isn't our problem, it's Ada County's problem. That was actually said in the meeting. I don't believe that. No one is, but then when they put in that apartment complex of 166 units, you're going to see about 350 to 375 cars that are going to come out onto Lizaso through this 28 unit development. They're not going to turn right only. They're going to turn left. I've watched it for 40 years. People get hit, people get T-boned. Someone on a motorcycle was killed coming out of there. When they come down off of Overland, when you turn in where they're going to have the access, where you turn in, it's a car length and a half from Overland. So when someone comes in to turn left into that area, it's going to back Overland up even more. People are going to be rear-ended. I know that it's not the concern of anyone who doesn't live in the area, but for us, it's a concern. It will become a point that I just won't use that. I won't be able to use that road. I mean, I'm not going to endanger my life, to try and go out there. The same thing with the 28 unit, you're going to have 55, 56 cars coming out of there. So we're talking, 400 more cars, 2 or 3 trips a day for an area that already has 400 cars coming out of it. The area on 5 Mile Creek, they've got to leave that natural because that is a protected area. It's with the fish and game. That's why they had to do it on the other side. We have nesting birds in there. And that isn't a concern to the developers. They don't care. They want to level everything, put concrete in, make it even hotter than it is now. The sidewalks in that area are in fairly good shape. There've been a number of accidents coming in there in the wintertime, because of the, roads getting slick. That's one of the biggest concerns of everyone living in the area is that the developers don't live there. They just get to make money and to say they're obviously going to concede for extra parking. I doubt it. We live on half-acre lots. There's a graduated lot law that's been on the books for almost 30 years for that area to kind of prevent that kind of density. That's the big concern, is the density matching up to what we've already got.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony, Maria.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah, we got a question for you, Maria.
Come back.
Councilmember Willetts.
Maria, thank you so much for your testimony. Would you prefer that it remains the density that was in the original zoning code? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I mean, they can do, up to 3 houses an acre and 30-acre lots. I know that isn't the way to make the most money possible and run, but if the developers lived in that area, they would be looking at that.
And then one other question, do you find that people are cutting through on, I want to make sure I say the name, treated the name, Laresso? I'm not saying that name.
Lazasso.
Thank you. They're cutting through there to Florida to get to Cloverdale.
People come off of Cloverdale, they come down Florida,
Yeah.
they race about 45 miles an hour down Florida, turn right onto Lazasso, and then try and turn left onto Overland.
Yeah.
Overland right now, between 4:30 and 6:30, you cannot get out onto it because of the traffic. People are trying to avoid the freeway traffic, so they're trying to get down to Meridian to go on the Meridian exit.
On the other side of the street,
residents
have put a
Oh, and you need her to be on the record.
If we could just keep a testimony to the those who were testifying, that'd be great.
Thank you. I had suspected that's being used as a cutoff to beat the intersection, if you will.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, Maria.
Mhm.
Would you like to testify?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come on up. If you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Hayden Wayne Harris. My address is 389 South Elm Street, apartment 124. My concern predominantly is the city's defenses. First of all, I don't think we should have a sheriff's department inside a DMV. It's just not defensible.
Do you have any testimony specific to this this project before us?
Yeah, I'd say the roads are a problem, but everybody else pretty much covered what I was going to say about that.
Okay. Do you have any new information you'd like to share with us about this project?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony. We appreciate you coming. All right. I had another individual signed up, Thomas Salgado. Is he online? Anybody online? Oh, Marissa Keith looks like she's here.
Hello.
Hello, Marissa. We can hear you.
Hi, this is Marissa Keith, 3279 South Cloverdale Road. I'm here with the Southwest Ada County Alliance Neighborhood Association. And a lot of the issues with this development were hashed out kind of with the other parcel. And I apologize, I have not had the time to review this project like I probably should have, but we just wanted to make sure that the pathway that is going to connect to the other parcel along 5 Mile Creek is contained in a public easement. And that be one of the conditions of approval or put on the plat. So that was the only thing that we wanted to ensure.
Yeah. Thank you, Marissa. Yeah, I believe the planner, and we'll have Sabrina confirm this, but I believe she did in her presentation confirm that there will be a public easement. Maybe there's a head nod from, yep, that there will be. It doesn't look like it connects all the way to Lazazo. I suspect that's because there's just not enough space for the road and the houses between the creek on this particular parcel, but perhaps the applicant can speak to that in closing. Anything else, Marissa?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, Ben, do you want to address anything that came up?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, Ben Semple with Rodney Evans and Partners. Yeah, so to touch on a couple things, I guess I'll start with the first one. That easement or the pathway will be within a public easement on this property and the adjacent property. It does get pretty narrow as you get closer to Lazasso. The private street will have sidewalk that pathway connects to, and we will put an easement over that portion of the sidewalk, so that'll be open to the public as well. So they'll have free access from Lazasso along 5 Mile Creek, connecting up to Overland Road to that multi-use pathway. Kind of going through some of these things. We'll be bringing municipal water into the site to service these homes. So Veolia water service, there will not be an on-site well. So that should reduce the drawdown on this area, at least this specific area. I know there's some existing wells on the site. Regarding irrigation water, the state of Idaho requires a subdivision to put in a pressurized irrigation system if they have a water right. I'm still researching the validity of the water right, whether it's enough to irrigate this subdivision, but if it is, it will be used. All stormwater will be kept on site and infiltrated. So between the use of pressurized irrigation, if it's available there, and on-site stormwater disposal, that'll help recharge the aquifer in that specific area as well. I'm the landscape architect on this project also. I paid a lot of attention to that riparian zone along the north. Worked with the forestry and parks department to make sure we were picking, some good varieties, some native stuff that will live in a floodplain zone like that too. I think their letter commended us on the selection of the trees and the variety of plant material back there. We're really hoping to enhance that habitat zone in there. I mean, nesting birds, all the wildlife that comes through there, that's important for everybody that lives not only there currently, but future residents as well. Regarding traffic, there was a traffic impact study done on this property, actually when we had proposed originally multifamily on both these parcels and then split this into two because of some specifics with the comp plan and having to not getting support of a comp plan amendment for this parcel. And ACHD did not indicate any problems with level of service on any of the roads here. There is transit along Overland. There's a bikeway along Lazasso. People do ride bikes and ride the bus now that the bus is running later and longer, or more frequently, I guess. We hope that people start using that. And, these townhomes are 2-bedroom. They're not 4-bedroom townhomes. These all have 2-car garages and on-site guest parking. We've worked with ACHD. The ACHD staff report for this project didn't indicate any problems with level of service. I know that Overland is a busy road. It's a main corridor. So, but that's also why density along these corridors is appropriate. Regarding emergency access, the private street is not required to be an aerial access roadway. These townhomes will be under 30 feet high, so they don't require an aerial apparatus to come in here and fight a fire on it, but it is wide enough to accommodate two-way traffic with some parking on both sides. It will be signed, it will be striped to really indicate where parking is allowed and where it isn't allowed. There is parking allowed on Lazasso the entry into this subdivision is immediately in alignment with a property or a project to the east of Lizaso. It meets ACHD policy to align with another road. It's about as far north as we could put the entry road into this project. And depending on what kind of car you drive, I guess that would dictate how many car lengths. When I was out there posting the signage from that road to the intersection, I think it's probably closer to 3 or 4 car lengths in there. But we don't need to argue about how many car lengths are along Lizaso Avenue. Regarding traffic calming through the neighborhood to the north, I can understand the concerns from neighbors. I know that ACHD doesn't like speed bumps because they impact service time for emergency vehicles and wear and tear on their vehicles as well. We've talked with the neighborhood association about, supporting a hawk flasher across Overland to help with pedestrian safety. And if there's other things that we can participate with the neighborhood with to help with some traffic calming, the developer is definitely on board with that. He has multiple projects throughout Boise. He's very invested in bringing a quality project to
Time.
Boise and, looks forward to building this project. So I would stand for any additional questions you might have.
Ben, you made a comment in there about this project splitting it into 2 pieces, not getting support for amendment to the comp plan. Could you just speak to that briefly?
Yeah, so probably middle of 2023, my client had brought this project in as I think it was 4 buildings, a multifamily project, closer to about 300 units, I think. And the western parcel that has the multifamily project that was approved was in a commercial land use zone. This is in a suburban land use zone. That doesn't support any higher density than the R1C zone. And so in conversations with staff, my client decided to pull the part of the project that was proposing to change the comp plan designation on the eastern parcel, the one that this project is on, and go back and just pursue an R1C designation, which fits within the suburban land use, utilizes a density that is appropriate for the area. I understand, wanting larger lots. Unfortunately, that does nothing to address any housing issues that we have right now. Cost of a third of an acre lot with a 3,000 square foot home. There's probably not a lot of people that can afford them right now, especially local people. So that's really what my client is looking to do, is to develop some affordable housing options here too. So that's why he's pursuing this R1C.
Do you have an idea of how many lots we could have anticipated, or how many units we could have anticipated with a different proposal?
In the R1C
Or
or?
it had both parcels looked like the previous application we approved?
Well, there's I want to say 163 units in the apartment project, and when it was a single project, it was 300. So there would have been, 120 plus more units on the site.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember
Just to
Morales.
follow that line of question. So in terms of these units, I believe I saw that the intention was that they would be for sale. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Morales, that's correct.
That's
They're
correct.
fee simple townhome lots for sale.
The prior proposal would not have had ownership. They would have been rentals.
That's correct. All rental.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Councilmember Willett?
Ben, nice to see you.
Good suit.
Walk me through, if this proposal had come up now with the modern zoning code, what would be the requirement for density? Because I know we have a legacy code here. I just want to get some clarity around that.
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Willetts, it probably isn't very different than what is there
Okay.
with the proposal now. The R1C zone increased the density. I guess we could have gone a little bit higher density than this, but with the bonus density allowance with the transit line that's adjacent, we got, I think, to 12 units an acre for our density. I think it's only like 11 point something when you calculate it out, but the new zone for R1C would be 12.4 units an acre. And while it would come with some other affordability, other incentives that we would pursue to get this product, ultimately it looks very similar.
And let me ask it a little differently. If this project was new and it was coming under the new zoning code, what would be the allowable density?
I think the highest density allowed to be 12.4.
Okay.
Unless there's a bonus density in the new code, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think
Thank
there is.
Any other questions, council?
Mr.
All right.
Mayor,
Yeah,
one
Councilman
more.
Morales.
I just want to make sure that I have clarity on this. It was brought up by neighbors in terms of traffic, and is it correct? Lazazo will be a right turn only onto Overland. Was that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Morales, I think that there's a confusion here. The apartment project, their entry is based on the approval they obtained, was a full access. Right turn, left turn, in, out, however you want, onto Overland. ACHD had indicated that depending on what traffic patterns look like, more than likely they will convert that to a right out only onto Overland. But the Lazaso entry will be, you can turn right or left onto Lazaso out of that entry. But to step back a little bit, when it was one project, ACHD would not allow us to have an entry onto Overland. They were going to put all of their traffic onto Lazaso. So we feel like this is a much better solution, I guess.
Okay, and then Mr. Mayor, Lazazo will remain right or left as well.
Mr.
To
Mayor,
Overland.
Councilmember Morales, that's correct.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman
then
Willetts.
One more question in terms of the design. You and I have talked a lot about this, that if you live in West Boise, you're driving. That's just what you're doing. I mean, we like having bus service, but it's just the reality of living out west of town. What was the thought pattern in putting 2-car garages in the townhomes? Because that's very interesting to me.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Willetts, when this was submitted, the requirement for single-family residential is to have 2-car parking spaces. So for the sake of maintaining as much open green space as possible, there were 2-car garages on the first, the lower level, and then the living and bedrooms above on subsequent levels of the project. There is I think it's a community activity center that's about a mile away. So we're hoping that with the price point of these that they're shooting for anyway, that some people that work down there could then take advantage of walking or biking or busing.
What is the price point?
I don't know yet. Lower than a third of an acre, 3,000 square foot house. I know that. I mean, I would, without trying to put words in their mouth, you're probably looking somewhere in the 300 range.
And if this was a totally new idea and it come under the modern zoning code, how much parking would be allowed?
You could do a 1-car garage for every single family home. And there's no guest parking requirement for single family.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's it, man.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff, council? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of CAR 23-24 and SUB 23-60, a rezone of approximately 2.5 acres at 11800 West Overland Road from R1B Single Family Residential at 4.8 units per acre to R1C Single Family Residential at 8 units per acre, and a preliminary plat for Wingman subdivision, a residential subdivision with 28 buildable and 8 common lots.
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I appreciate this project. I think it's actually a pretty good infill project. I appreciate the easements along the 5 Mile Creek and the pathways, the easements for the pathways. In the transportation data that we received in the staff report, there's quite a bit of information on plans that ACHD has coming up. And I guess first I'll say, if you heard up here that traffic is not our problem, I would say it is certainly all of our problem, right? But our roads are our challenge, because the city, very unique to the city of Boise, a highway district manages our local roads. we're not able to manage them. So we have to lean on the expertise of ACHD to give us their expert opinion on what our roads can and can't handle. They have signed off on this project, and they've also provided comments that include that Overland Road and Lazasso Avenue are scheduled in the 5-year work plan for wayfinding and bikeway signage improvements and construction anticipated beginning next year. Also, that Overland Road is listed for the capital improvement plan to be widened. Also that the intersection of Overland Road and Cloverdale Road is listed on the same plan to be widened and signalized. So there is relief coming to this area, and it's in the plan, and that's what we can do is help them prioritize that plan, but we unfortunately don't have direct control. So with that information and knowing that ACHD has this on their radar, I think it's a good infill project, and I'll support the motion.
I'm sorry, we've closed the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to make comment as well. I appreciate this project as well. I think when we talk about traffic, growth pays for growth, but it only pays for it once it's grown. We, these modifications that are already needed to streets, expansions, new projects can be funded by impact fees, and so these projects will happen as we continue to grow. I think I really like and appreciate what these developments are doing in terms of detaching sidewalks and providing substantial trees along that road. It's going to be a welcome side of relief on that section of Overland to have that much vegetation. And that's an important part of traffic calming, really. And so I think from that aspect, I'm really grateful for the work that's gone into beautifying this project from that perspective. And I also, had some discussion up here tonight about what this project could have looked like. I'm excited about how the project turned out because it's diversifying the opportunities people have for housing in this area. You talk about the large lots, familiar with those. I had a large lot out in Southwest Boise as a kid. You've got the apartments, multifamily. I also lived in an apartment as I started out my adult life. And then you've got homes that can be owned, equity that can be built for new generations of Boiseans. So I really appreciate this project and I'll be supporting the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Willetts.
couple of comments. Appreciate the public coming down tonight, especially in 110-degree weather. I'm one of these cars that drive on this road all the time, and as a West Boisean, and I get frustrated too. And I am concerned that people are taking shortcuts, that they're going through neighborhoods and using them as ways to avoid busy intersections. And I hear you on that. And I grilled Ben a bit on this other section when it came before us to increase the density because I didn't want it. I did not think that the particular piece of property warranted the density to the west. Here's why I'm going to support this is because if this came back, there'd be less parking. There'd be more density and less parking. And the fact that these are townhomes with 2-car garages is really unique because under the new zoning code, developers can use market forces and they could have very little and no guest parking. And so I think this is actually better for the neighborhood in terms of parking and in terms of access than if it were to come again. And sometimes you have to choose between what's in front of you and what could be. And I think this is the best we're going to get here. It is part of a busy road. We understand that. We all struggle with density at times, but if this were to come back, I think your neighborhood would not like it because I don't think you would get as much parking. And we need parking because we have cars in West Boise. It is just a fundamental thing. We drive. So that's why I'm going to be supporting the motion.
Yeah, I'd just add, I thank you for your great comments, council, and thank you for those who've shown up and for this professional presentation, Ben. My only ask would be the applicant is consider bringing amendments to the comp plan to council to consider. We'd like to see what the project would have looked like. I think what the project is probably more in line with what the neighborhood would prefer if they were presented with multiple options. So I'll be supporting the motion, but thank you, everyone.
Mr.
right.
Mayor, Councilmember Corliss has her hand raised
Oh,
online.
Councilmember Corliss. Did you have
Yes. Hello.
Sorry,
Hey,
I have to say I forgot it. You were there, but I'm glad you are. So go ahead.
a little out of sight, out of mind. I understand. I too want to thank all the residents for coming out tonight and taking time out of their day and their evening to come down to City Hall and express their views and opinions on this project. I understand that traffic is always a concern in this area. It's difficult. We're a growing city, and I think we're going to have to go through a little bit more growing pains before that gets addressed. I am in support of this project, and I believe that it represents a positive step to address our growing need for housing and diverse housing. And moreover, this development is an answer to what I hear from community members all the time, that they'd like to purchase a home. And this will give our residents an opportunity to get some housing that they can go forward and purchase. So I'm happy to see this come forward, that we have houses on smaller lots that will be available for purchase. And so I will be supporting this motion tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, no further discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Corliss.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right. Last item, we'd like to go back and take up a piece of special business, interim budget changes. We welcome Eric and then our fearless mayor back to the dais. Eric, we'll give you a minute to get your presentation up. Eric,
Thank you very much.
Eric, are we supposed to be seeing something on the screen?
I do not have a presentation.
Okay.
This evening.
I'll just try not to be distracted by it.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor, members of the council, we have 11 interim budget changes for your consideration this evening. The first item is a $700,000 appropriation increase in the capital fund for lighting along the Boise River Greenbelt adjacent to the Willow Lane Athletic Complex. This project, which presently has $1 million allocated towards it, will improve safety and line of sight for Greenbelt users. This increase was contemplated in the development of the fiscal year 25 proposed budget and will not deplete fund balance in the capital fund beyond levels that were communicated in the fiscal year 25 proposed budget document. The second item is for a roof and exhaust hood replacement at Quail Hollow Golf Course. The roof is currently leaking and in need of replacement, which will also provide an opportunity to replace an outdated exhaust hood that no longer functions properly. The $95,000 required for this investment would come from the golf reserve within the capital fund. The third item is a $150,000 budget appropriation in the general fund to begin engineering and cost estimating work for the stabilization of the Union Block building. That structure was deemed unsafe per the notice and order issued to the building owner in November 2023. And due to inaction of the owner, the city has elected to complete repairs to remedy safety concerns. Our Planning and Development Services Department anticipates identifying the costs associated with the stabilization and returning to City Council with a hearing in September 2024 to present the total stabilization construction cost for approval, as well as potential cost recovery options. The fourth item would utilize ARPA funding to make a $5.5 million budget neutral contribution to New Path 3.0, which is an expansion of New Path permanent supportive housing. The city is partnering with the developer to provide gap financing for this $35 million project to be built on Fairview Avenue. In total, 95 homes will be made available for people exiting homelessness and provide them with permanent supportive housing. Construction is expected to begin late summer. The next item is a $65,000 transfer from the Housing Projects and Special Activities Fund to the Housing and Urban Development Funds to resolve a cash shortfall attributable to limits on federal reimbursements on administrative costs in the current year. The sixth item is a $25,000 increase in the Housing Projects and Special Activities Fund for document imaging and indexing costs associated with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. The offset for this adjustment would be the remaining emergency rental assistance funds. Seventh, we have a $450,000 appropriation increase to the municipal building electrification project. This project was initially funded using ARPA funds. However, the costs of the project exceed the amount of ARPA funds available by $450,000. A portion of the increase would be offset by reductions elsewhere, with a true increase amounting to $250,000, which would be supported by the capital fund. As with the Willow Lane lighting project, this increase was contemplated in the development of the fiscal year 25 proposed budget. The next item is a $438,000 increase for necessary upgrades to the geothermal system's sole injection well. This work is vital for improving the capacity of the overall geothermal system. Our ninth item is a $60,000 appropriation in the municipal irrigation fund to support 2 pump station replacements. This project would replace 2 pump stations that have exceeded their useful life and have experienced safety and performance concerns. The project is expected to commence immediately and be completed by October 2024. The 10th item is a $550,000 budget neutral reallocation to replace the roof at the Boise watershed. The budget for this roof replacement would be offset by a reduction to the West Boise Water Renewal Facility tertiary filtration project. If approved, the roof replacement is expected to be completed in September 2024. Our final item is a $6.3 million increase to begin design work for upgrades to the primary and secondary clarifiers at the Lander Street Water Renewal Facility. The capacity expansion project at this facility is progressing ahead of schedule and is expected to enter final design in the initial construction phase. This funding was built into the fiscal year 25 proposed budget, and an IBC would be brought forward later this year to reduce the funding if this interim budget change is approved. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions that the council may have.
Thanks, Eric.
Eric, could you talk about the funding for New Path and where we stand with the current ARPA funding?
With the current what? Sorry.
With our ARPA funds in general?
Madam Mayor, council member, this 5.5 million is coming from $12 million that was originally allocated, I believe, as part of the fiscal year 2023 budget. That funding was allocated for housing items, and there was a commitment made at that time to bring forward any specific investments through the interim budget change process. With this item, and I think one other planned investment, that funding would be depleted, which is a contributing factor to the planned investment in the housing fund as part of the fiscal year 25 proposed budget.
Thank you. I just offer a comment on this. Council, when I came over from the legislature to city council, I was in a unique position in the legislature where I was setting budgets on 3 years of enormous surpluses, which is a very easy time to be a budget setter, is when small projects that nobody's really looking at are $50 million in those years. And then in out years, those people are fighting over $500,000. At the city, I think I have had kind of a culture shock with the constraints that we have on revenue here, and still being able to lean into priorities that maybe haven't been core functions of the city historically. You have to get really scrappy to keep the ball rolling on these projects. We need permanent supportive housing. We need long-term solutions. The community has been begging for us. It's no more stopgaps. Let's deliver on long-term solutions to treat, no longer treat the symptom of homelessness, but let's get to the cause and the root of it, which is people need houses to feel stable, to live fulfilling, meaningful lives, and we can do that here. So I just want to thank the mayor for her leadership on this. Really excited to be taking part of this. I think this is a great use of our ARPA funds, and yeah, just really excited to be voting on this tonight.
Did you? Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. This is a really fun budget change menage here. We have Parks and Rec is accounted for, and our geothermal projects, and the watershed, and the Union Block, which is preserving our history, housing, and emergency rental assistance. I mean, to me, this is a really exciting sort of like collection of our city's values, and it's fun to see this, you know, to give it a moment and recognize it, and hopefully people are watching and listening so that they can see, you know, the enthusiasm I think that council has for this set of budget changes, and looking forward to seeing these projects come to fruition.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Sometimes we save our comments for after the motion, but it seems like now is the time that we're doing it. I look at this interim budget change and I see a lot of high quality, complex planning and putting puzzle pieces together to make sure that we can answer all the needs that we have for all of the different services that we ask. So I just want to say thank you to the staff for getting this put together well, creating a really good path forward that's, again, complex, technical, and also extremely appropriate. And the second thing I would say is that later this summer, there's going to be a big party on 2200 Fairview Avenue. And it's going to be a party because there have been so many people working on New Path 2.0 to actually get it this far, leveraging funding where we can, leveraging land, leveraging partnerships, leveraging all the work from our staff and our community partners to actually make this happen. And that will be a really big celebration of all that hard work when we actually break ground on it. And it'll be a celebration for the families that are going to be moving in there. It will be a life-changing and a life-saving investment that the city is making for these amazing community members that will be living there, and the future that they're going to bring to our city going forward. So I'm excited for a groundbreaking in late summer.
Madam Mayor, I also want, I think sometimes people ask, what do my taxes do for me? Like what does the city actually do? They should just read these 6 pages. It is a really good collection of really, really important things. And I would also like to comment on one of the bigger ones, New Path 2.0. Our permanent supportive housing efforts have been so laudable over the years. And I was so excited, as I've been able to talk to neighbors about what we're doing for housing, to be able to show these concrete steps. For quite some time, I often look to neighboring areas like the Salt Lake City metro area and been envious of what municipal partnerships have been able to do in regards to housing. And it's just, this is just another awesome piece that the city is doing what it can with funds. This is so important. The services that we'll provide are so important and will be a return on investment. It will be huge for individual families and for our community. So thank you.
And Madam Mayor, just a couple questions or comments. Eric, good to see you. Still standing. One thing that I'd like to point out is the lighting at Parks and Rec by Willow Tree. I think that's a really important piece to this. You know, we've got Interfaith that's close by. I think that this is something that the neighbors are really going to like. And I just like to point out there's a lot of things in this budget change, but I just want to point out that I think that's a very good safety increase. So thank you.
Great. I'm just going to say a couple things before I take a motion because I won't be voting. Councilmember Willetts, I appreciate that you called out the Willow Lane. I made a commitment as part of the approval of Interfaith and announced it last year that we would do the lighting on the Greenbelt as well as lower some of the berms and clear some of that area out for safety reasons. Committed to the neighborhood to do that, and this is the budget change that makes that possible, and really appreciate the Parks and Rec team and the budget team helping us figure out how to do this as quickly as possible to be timed with the building now, the construction of Interfaith Sanctuary. And then I too wanted to make a couple comments on the public-private partnership that's making New Path 2.0 possible. You know, in 2020, 2021, we did a housing analysis, and it said we needed to have 250 permanent supportive housing homes in our city to stay ahead. And to not make the mistakes of other cities, but to have real solutions. And the real solution to preventing homelessness, to not saying what's happened in other cities, is a home. And to do that, we have to support folks as they exit homelessness and move into homes. And to hit that 250 home number, and we together purchased the Park Apartments last year, and those should open next year. And we're partnering with Pacific Companies in this public-private partnership to build 95 homes here at New Point Path 2.0. And we're in planning stages and committed with another developer in public-private partnership to build additional homes next to Fire Station 5. That, in addition to the public-private partnership that's made it possible to have scattered sites for families exiting homelessness in all of the affordable housing developments that we are also partnering on with developers, is making it possible for us to exceed our goals and to house more than 250 folks exiting homelessness in the timeline that we'd established. So this is a big step. It's really important, as Councilmember Halliburton rightly said. We'll be celebrating at the groundbreaking in August. But I also want to point out that this is possible because of additional partnerships in Boise, and that's the public-private philanthropic partnerships that I announced in my State of the City, the Supportive Housing Investment Fund. This New Path 2.0 will take advantage of the investment that the council agreed to make that is being matched by foundations and businesses in this community, and it has been established in partnership with the Idaho Community Foundation to ensure that we've got the wraparound services at New Path 2.0, at the Park Apartments, at the future Fire Station 5 site to support folks exiting homelessness on their way to self-sufficiency. And so appreciate the commitment of this council, the ability that we've all had to figure out how to use funds that we've received from the administration well and wisely. We're using them all for the benefit of our residents. And also how we creatively, scrappily meet the needs and stay ahead of issues so that we can continue to beat the odds. I'm really, really excited about this and appreciate the support and everybody that helped us get to this point. But most importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing this done. Folks moving into homes and then being provided with the case management and support services on their way to self-sufficiency made possible by the shift that the community can still get involved with. So thanks so much. And thanks for the team and all the different pieces today that were in the budget changes that make it possible for us to serve our residents.
Madam Mayor, I'd move approval of the interim budget changes as presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, clerk.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Stead,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Corliss.
Absolutely.
All in favor, motion carries.
Oh, shoot. Out of sight, out of mind. Like she said, sorry,
Yep,
Councilmember
that's all
Corliss.
right.
You're welcome to say something now if you want. We haven't adjourned.
I had to put in my comment because I'm so excited for the investment that the city is making for our future with New Path 2.0 and reducing homelessness and promoting more social equity. I think everyone, I applaud the city of Boise for the work that they've done years in the past. I'm excited to be a part of council and to be part of this vote tonight to see us continue to invest in housing.
Thank you. And now I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I'd move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.